unmute. And we are live. I'm running right over.
Okay.
Running over.
This is very professional, ladies and gentlemen.
Very professional every week.
Every week.
Any other way. I'm here.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Welcome to the show that we like to call The Jump Cut.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, I love it. I'm your host, Nigel Fullerton. Sitting with me is
Steve, and I am not wearing any pants.
Basically, this is a show where we discuss movies, TV, and all around geek culture. We watch these movies so you won't have to.
Even though you may want to. Background before we start this.
Sure.
So this is a special episode of The Jump Cut. We did this twice before. It's called Rapid Fire.
Rapid Fire.
The first time we did this, we reviewed all 24, I believe, Marvel films, right?
Yeah, Marvel films.
We did that anticipating Endgame, and we gave every Marvel movie 2 minutes with a timer to review each movie. We did it again for something else. I completely forgot what.
Did we? I thought that was the only time we did it.
I think we did it one more time.
Yeah.
And then, but now we're doing it for every film written and directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Yes, Quentin Tarantino is a revolutionary director. His first big movie was Reservoir Dogs, all the way down to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's known for certain things. He's known for reviving the careers of John Travolta, Pam Grier.
Did John Travolta not have much of a career?
John Travolta did have a career, but what happened was he was floundering. I think the movie before Pulp Fiction was Look Who's Talking To.
Oh, okay.
So he wasn't really like doing the best movies. We can go on about Travolta in the 80s, but let's not. Basically, he's known for certain tropes, such as he's known for his non-linear narratives, plans that go wrong in his movies.
Yeah.
He's known for Honor Among Thieves, where you see that mostly in Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, Django. He's known for having Samuel Jackson in almost every one of his movies. And
I think it's something like 6 out of 9.
If he's not in the movie, he does the narrative. Did you
No, usually Quentin Tarantino does a narrative.
He does, but there was one movie that I watched that Samuel Jackson was not in. Oh, Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah.
And he did he did narration in it.
No, I'm pretty sure it was Quentin.
There was a scene where he did the narration. I could tell with Samuel Jackson's voice.
Are you able to get the timer up on your phone?
I can.
Okay, so the movies we're reviewing them in chronological order. We are reviewing Reservoir Dogs, it came out in 1992, Pulp Fiction from 94, Jackie Brown from 97, Kill Bill 1 and 2 we're reviewing as a whole because I saw the Whole Bloody Affair from 03 and 04. Grindhouse Death Proof from 07, Inglourious Basterds from 09, Django Unchained from 2012, Hateful Eight from 2015, and I forgot my playbill from when I saw it, but and then 2019, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which we are going to give longer than the traditional 5 minutes. We're going to give it a full 20 minutes.
All right.
So
you ready?
You ready? All right. So we're starting off with Reservoir Dogs.
Boom.
All right, you want to start this? Did you re-see it or no?
I didn't re-see it, but I know from memory.
Quickly, Reservoir Dogs. It's essentially a heist film.
Yes.
It's Tarantino's kind of breakthrough as a director and a writer. And what he did with the movie is he did his disjointed narrative, which means he told the story out of order.
Right.
Starting it with the end,
which he's known for.
Going backstory. That's one thing he's known for. Going for backstory and bringing back in, and he's also known for his flair and style. This movie focuses on, I believe, 8 characters who go under the name of colors.
Yes, white, brown, pink, orange, blue, black,
and white. We already did white.
Pink.
And pink, that's right. So the movie
got that.
So that was and Quentin Tarantino. I don't even think they gave him a color.
Quentin Tarantino he didn't. I think he was either black or blue.
He was in it for a few minutes.
There's Mr. Blonde.
Yeah.
Who's Michael Madsen.
All right. So anyway, so going into the movie, one thing I didn't really like about it overall was that I only saw it the one time.
Okay.
But I did not like the first quarter of it, I would guess. It was really slow. I felt that it was important. I think if I rewatch it again, it would make much more sense.
Which is funny because I like this movie. I've seen it. I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't have to rewatch it because I've seen it plenty of times. This was like the typical heist movie for me. Like this was one of my first heist quote unquote movies that I really wanted to watch. This was one of the folklore movies. This was one of the folklore movies, whereas Pulp Fiction was bigger.
Yeah.
It eclipsed this movie. This movie nobody ever knew about, but they knew of it.
Yeah.
Harvey Keitel, Sean Penn's brother, who I can't think of right now.
Okay.
And Michael Madsen, which has a great that scene where he's torturing that cop.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's etched in my
That was
mind.
like blood curdling.
I
It was really
love
good.
that song too.
Yeah.
Stuck in the Middle with You, Steelers and Wheel.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They actually made a whole playlist on Spotify too.
Did they?
Yeah.
Awesome.
The one thing I got to say though is that it does have the Tarantino flair. If you're looking for that, obviously.
Right.
And it does really make sense as his first movie.
It does.
It shows he's a little bit noobish in it,
And he's also in the movie, which is crazy.
He's in a couple of the movies, but I
Yeah.
think that. But looking deeper into it, I really thought that the performances were killer.
Right.
I love one of my favorite times in all of cinema was the first scene in the movie talking about tipping.
Oh yeah, that's monumental. That's been in like a whole bunch of music videos and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant because it's so simple. One thing that I always loved about Tarantino more than his action and his attention to gore was his what's that? What I love more about Tarantino more than his attention to gore is his attention to detail and dialogue. How he could keep your attention just for characters being developed and talking.
Right, and he does that a lot in the early films.
Yeah.
In the early films, you're dragged in.
And in the
you're
later
dragged
films
in.
too. His middle films didn't have it as much.
Okay.
So
Agree to disagree.
we're gonna get into it. We're gonna start off agreeing on a lot of stuff.
I did like this was the first introduction to Steve Buscemi. This was our first introduction to not Tim Roth, but Tim Roth as a character as well. There's a lot of powerful people in Reservoir Dogs, and it is one of those movies that like the iconic scene where they're all walking outside of that diner. It's like you get chills when you see it. It's now etched in pop culture.
Yeah.
But before, when you first saw this movie, you're just like, all right, this looks cool. I don't really know what it is. My other issue with this movie is the first time the liberal use of the N-word is used.
Yeah. It's quite shocking.
Tarantino likes that word a little more than I do. But
and he's been under fire for that quite a bit.
yeah, he's gotten into it with Spike Lee, Denzel Washington, a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, but he had
because of
Samuel
his-
Jackson sticking up for him and a couple other
Samuel
people as well.
Jackson had to, but see, I understand it with Samuel Jackson because it comes off conversational with Samuel Jackson.
Yeah.
When he has other people do it, it's just like, whoa, where are we going?
I've read interviews with Samuel L. Jackson actually discussing about how he
Adds more.
No, he adds more. Not just that, but the way it's being used, he says, is more from, I guess, an objective standpoint, how Tarantino's using it as it exists. The word
Right.
exists, and Tarantino's not trying to ignore its existence.
And I get that, but how many times does it exist in all of your movies?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. There's the line.
Yeah,
Is that-
there's a line, and we'll get to that once we get to Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Because I read an article of Samuel Jackson talking about that as well.
All right, so we are currently at 4 minutes and 40 seconds. How do you like the movie?
I love this movie.
I really enjoyed it. I need to rewatch it to really absorb everything.
Yeah.
But it was really good on my first watch, and it was good on first impression. But we just hit 5 minutes.
We hit 5
So
minutes.
Now we are going to move on to Pulp Fiction. Came out in 1994. Do you want to give the synopsis?
No, you said you got the synopsis. I'll do time.
Okay.
I told you it's hard for me to explain like his movies because they're all disjointed, so I don't really know what's going on.
All right. You ready to go?
Yeah,
3.
let's do it.
Oh, okay. We're just starting. Okay. So Pulp Fiction is another disjointed narrative.
Yeah.
It follows 3 stories. One starring Quentin
Jules.
Tarantino and John Travolta,
Right.
Who looks suspiciously like the villain in Amazing Spider-Man 1, but I'll get to that in a
Okay.
different video. John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson are basically just going to perform these hits for this man named Marcellus.
Right, Marcellus Washington. I think it is.
Washington, yeah. And
there's Jules and Vincent.
it starts off with them. It starts off with them in the diner. You see the diner scene going on.
Right, that's
You
Tim
don't-
Roth and
I forgot her name.
forgot her
Pumpkin and Honey Bun. Pumpkin and Honey Bun.
right.
Tim Roth. This is like when I saw he's in this movie too. That's where I started kind of like thinking, because I didn't notice a lot of characters crossing over because I saw these movies when I was much
And that's
younger.
why I like this movie.
And what I kind of think about is Tarantino is the cinematic equivalent of like American Horror Story, bringing in the same cast, rearranging them for different movies, and telling a different story.
Well, a lot of directors do that where they bring in a lot of like Scorsese does it.
Yeah, but Tarantino, he has like the bill of like 5 characters he keeps bringing for every movie. kind
Right,
of.
but Spike Lee does the same thing. Like they all have their certain characters or certain actors that they use, and there's also crossover with Samuel Jackson, both of those directors.
Yeah.
But this movie right here is like probably one of the most parodied movies of 1994. It's iconic because like it's segmented and weird, but the characters are all connected, like you said.
Well, let me go into
Sure, go for it.
So you have the one arc with Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta. You have the second arc starring Bruce Willis.
Yes.
Where he is a fighter and he's told to throw a fight by Marcellus, and it's the situation of going through that path. Like I said, I don't want to spoil too much.
Right.
Even though you've probably seen this Pulp Fiction.
It's this movie is over 20 years old.
And then the third storyline, which involves John Travolta and Uma Thurman.
Right.
Where is John Travolta basically needing to watch Uma Thurman for Marcellus while he's away. And this movie kind of reminds me of Crash. I think Crash came out after this movie.
Crash came out after this movie. Way later.
But the way they did is the characters cross paths kind of every now and then, but pretty seamlessly. And you have the subtle arc with Tim Roth and Honey Bun,
right?
where they're just kind of like discussing on robbing the diner.
There's so many quotable lines from this movie.
It's probably one of the most quotable.
It's one of the most quotable. It's also one of the most imitated movies because there's other directors that tried to imitate Quentin Tarantino's, because this is what made it popular.
Yeah.
This is the movie that everybody's like, wow, you mean to tell me we could put the ending of a movie in the beginning
He worked in the Blockbuster when he made this too.
Oh wow, I did not know that, because like I said, this was the one that broke out for him. Reservoir Dogs didn't really do it for him. It was always Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction was that thing that like everyone talked about, and again, it revived the career of John Travolta because, like I said, his 80s movies, his run in the 80s wasn't as great as his run in the 70s. So it was just like at the time he was just like middling as an actor.
Yeah, and on top of that, I was looking. One thing that I found interesting is I was looking to see if someone put it in chronological order, because it's inevitable someone did that. The movie is broken into chapters,
right?
And someone did it, and from what I heard, it still holds pretty well.
It should.
It doesn't hold the weight of like the movie being sandwiched between the ending and two scenes,
because you don't know what's going on, and that's one of the things that every Tarantino movie like has.
That's the thing with this movie, is that you don't know what the hell's going on until about halfway through. You just know that you're enjoying yourself. I mean, the most iconic scenes, like you're looking at the conversation about the Royale with cheese,
right?
Or Samuel L. Jackson's monologue about the from the Bible, or you have Quentin Tarantino going absolutely ape shit in his house. And I still think that scene's like, I see it quoted still constantly.
Oh my god, I hate that scene. But two things. Number one, I just want to say that this was one of the first standout roles for Samuel L. Jackson. Before this, he was doing like small roles. He never really like held a movie, and this was the first time he ever like was like a co-star in a movie. Second thing, the dead N-word storage thing. Samuel L. Jackson had talked about that in an interview, and he was just saying how he told Quentin to take it out, but he was like, "Nah, come on." So they tried to do it differently. They tried to.
Well, what they did actually is they also gave him a black wife too, to make it have less weight.
But it didn't have any less sting for me.
Exactly. Hey Steve, thanks for tuning in. But we are at 4.5 minutes. So overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's so much fun to watch. I forgot the Bruce Willis arc was even in there.
Yeah, I love Bruce Willis in this as well. I love the fact that Ving Rhames gets like, he gets medieval on their bitch asses.
Yeah.
So
this is really interesting. We're going to hold all talk about Quentin Tarantino controversies for the end of the episode, so stick around. But we are hitting 5 minutes, which means we got to finish this, and we are moving on to Jackie Brown.
All right, I'll do Jackie Brown.
Jackie Brown from 1997.
1997. I'll do Jackie Brown because I seen this movie before, but I didn't know. I just watched it for the first time again. But I watched this movie before. Basically, Jackie Brown is Samuel Jackson plays a drug dealer, and he uses Jackie Brown to
no, he's a gun dealer.
He's a gun dealer. He also does drugs as well.
No, I'm pretty sure he's exclusively guns.
Okay, gun dealer. So he's a gun dealer that has his money in Mexico. Pam Grier, who plays Jackie Brown, is a flight attendant who goes back and forth between Mexico to bring his stuff, whether it be guns, money, or I think she was caught with cocaine, which is called.
The cocaine was because of the fact it was like a gift, Okay. Yeah.
So.
A small amount now. Does not, because that's the thing where they flagged her with was with intent to distribute.
Right. So basically, what happens is she gets busted, and now she, Samuel Jackson wants to kill her, but he's not sure what's what. She cuts a deal with Samuel L. Jackson, cuts a deal with the bail bondsman, and cuts a deal with the ATF and the police. Just so you know, this is your typical who did it, who done it type of situation. Whereas she's trying to play everybody against each other so she can come out on top.
It's a who done it where you're on the other side of the fence,
basically.
I guess. Yeah. And the movie, this movie gets a lot of hate. This movie is viewed. People view it as one of Tarantino's worst.
How?
Because first of all, it doesn't. It's not action focused.
Okay.
There's very little. There's very very little action. This is the least amount of action in this movie out of all of his movies.
Really? Okay.
People don't like the way the characters are behaving in this movie. People don't necessarily like the fact that Tarantino didn't write the story. The story was originally a novel.
Okay.
And Tarantino took the novel and he adapted it for the big screen.
Okay.
Which is why it's still considered written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. Mm-hmm. But this movie is just a fun heist movie. It's also one of the few Tarantino movies where it's almost completely in chronological order without going back.
It was the first one that ever did that.
But it was still slightly disjointed towards the end when there's showing multiple perspective of one scene.
Toward the end, but
for the most part, it's the easiest watching Tarantino movie. One of them.
I would say that, yes.
Yeah.
That is how I felt. I won't say all my feelings about the other movies I watched in succession.
We're just focusing on Jackie Brown
We're just focusing on Jackie Brown. I like the character choices that Samuel L. Jackson made. Mm-hmm. I feel that anytime you give Samuel L. Jackson a wig, he's ready. He's just in that character. I love it. And I used to watch this movie, and like I said, I watched it for the first time again because I used to only watch this for Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
And if you don't know this by now, Chris Tucker dies in the first 10 minutes of the film.
And he also watched it to see the protagonist naked.
Yeah, I wanted to see Pam Grier naked. That was a trope for the 70s.
She doesn't go naked.
She doesn't go naked in this film.
So Nigel kind of had the two things that he loved stripped away from him.
Well, people told me that there's movies where she's naked, so I was like, all right, well, let's watch Coffee, let's watch Foxy Brown, let's watch all these Pam Grier movies because this is supposed to be Tarantino's homage to the 70s.
And this is where
and I got those vibes from it. I've seen all those movies, so I got all those vibes from it. So it wasn't an issue for me. I really did like this movie. At first, the first time I did watch it, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't really care for it.
You're also a kid, right?
I was also a kid, but I didn't like the character that Robert De Niro played. I felt like he was very sluggish. I felt like he wasn't. I'm used to him being in Casino. I'm used to him being in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting Goodfellas or Casino from him, so I'm like, what's he doing?
Yeah, I think this movie is honestly one of my favorite Tarantino movies, just because I really enjoyed. And we're gonna rank them at the end,
right?
But I really enjoyed where he went with this movie. I enjoyed the dialogue quite a bit. I think that's if I had to pick between Tarantino violence and dialogue, I'd pick the dialogue usually. Okay. There's some movies there's imbalances. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But I think that overall, if you're looking for a movie with that Tarantino flair, but it's still a heist film, you're gonna have fun with this because there's so many good actors. I mean, you also have Michael Keaton in here.
Michael Keaton
does
is
an
definitely
awesome
in this.
job.
I love Michael Keaton,
especially in this too.
Yeah.
But overall, this is a movie that I have to. And my stream just closed. This is a movie that overall I really have to recommend to you if you are a fan of Quentin Tarantino. So. With that, we are at 5 minutes.
Okay.
Jackie Brown from 1997. Yeah. So
I liked it.
I liked it too.
All right.
Now we're moving on to Kill Bill.
So this is where we differ.
From 2003 and 2004.
Yeah, this is where we're gonna differ. So I guess I'll set it up.
Yeah, set it up.
All right. So basically, this is a movie about 7 deadly assassins,
starring Uma Thurman.
Yes, they're all named after cobras.
And this is also
snakes.
her second Tarantino movie.
It's her second Tarantino movie, the one that he almost killed her in. So basically, what happens is that there's seven deadly vipers. Uma Thurman plays the Black Mamba. She's also linked to Bill, who is the leader of these assassins. What happens is she is they tried to murder her, and they basically, I guess, they went against her. I forgot. I haven't watched it in a while. But basically, these other Vipers, these other assassins, went against her because I think she was, and I don't want to give it away why they tried to kill her. But I will say that basically she comes back for revenge. She wants to kill Bill, basically, which is the name of the. So she goes through all of the other assassins that were linked to it, and basically you see her one by one murder every single assassin that she's trying just to get to Bill.
Yeah, and this movie, there's some controversy here too. There's I forgot what the scene exactly, but because I watched there's a fan re-edit the whole bloody affair, right?
Okay.
Because Kill Bill was filmed as one movie,
right?
But you have Harvey Weinstein who said you need to cut it up into two. He said that no one's going to sit through a theater for a 4-hour movie.
Yeah.
Which at that time it was pretty unconventional. Even
4 hours was too long for a movie. 4 hours is too long for a movie now.
Yeah, even though you had The Dark Knight, which is like 3 something. The Dark Knight Rises.
I don't remember.
I think that was like 3 and change, but
you have Endgame, which was 3 and change.
Yeah, but with this movie, people argue quite a bit if this is a movie that defines whether or not Quentin Tarantino made 9 or 10 movies.
Right.
So if you watch the whole bloody affair, there's a fan edit bringing them together to make one whole movie. But there's a scene in the original Kill Bill 1 where it's black and white because there's so much gore going on.
Right.
And they make it to black and white because people were getting like they felt that the audience would be really kind of intimidated.
Which scene was that? You sure that wasn't the second one?
It might have been the second one. Like I said, it's the whole bloody affair.
The second one is the one that that there was black and white. The second one is when Samuel L. Jackson is in and they're at the wedding. Yeah. So this is the wedding where they try to kill the Black Mamba. I forgot her name in this movie. But Uma Thurman, it plays the Black Mamba, and they try to kill her at that wedding. And again, I don't remember. I'm almost positive it's because she was
pregnant.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Let's get right into our perspectives. Sure. First thing is, my first thing that I really noticed about this movie, I didn't notice it as much in Pulp Fiction, but man, Quentin Tarantino needs to fucking cool it with the feet, and he won't. He won't cool it with the feet. Spoiler for every future movie.
That is mainly what he does. He has a foot fetish.
A major foot fetish.
He has a major foot fetish, and I actually watched something on IMDb where they were talking about tropes of Quentin Tarantino, and that was one of the things. They had so many shots of feet, like going back from Pulp Fiction, just like feet, like, and I'm just like, some of them are just too dirty for me.
I mean, that's how he likes it.
Yeah.
But there's this one scene in Kill Bill 2 where Uma Thurman's looking at her feet and she's trying to get her toes to move, and after an hour trying to get her feet to move, she's not paralyzed anymore.
Yeah.
So looking at that, and that scene made sense in context, trying to look at the feet. But then you look at movies like what was it, Jackie Brown, where you have like the female, I forgot her name. I think her name is Miranda or Michelle or something like that.
Yes.
The white girl.
I'll tell you what her real name is. I can't think of it around. Jodie Foster.
Yeah, but she had rings on her toes.
Yeah, she had toe rings. That was the thing in the 90s, man.
I know it was a thing in the 90s.
That was the thing. Toe ring? You got a girl a toe ring.
but this movie kind of established that. I really did enjoy. This is a fun movie. It's a really fun movie. It's a very corny movie. It's not meant to be taken super seriously.
Yeah, I will tell you this. I did walk out.
You did?
When I saw this in the movie theater, I did walk out.
Part 1 or 2?
Part 1. I didn't. A lot
of people like Part 1 less.
I like Part 2 better. Part 1 was just I think after all the gore that was happening toward the end, I was just like, eh. Yeah. Like, I know what's going to happen. Let me leave because this is only Part 1.
But did you like this movie?
I like parts of the movies. See, what I've learned is that with these Quentin Tarantino movies, and I guess because we're doing 2, we have more time. But I guess.
Oh, I thought we were going to view it as 1. That's what I was trying to go
for. No, it's all good. We have time.
We'll give it 2 more minutes because I want to get really into this news release.
So my thing is, I understand that these things are for art and not necessarily for entertainment value. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, I'm just going to say it's not for me, but there are aspects of the movie that I do like and I would watch again.
I mean, but also as like a appreciator of film, you can understand like a lot of stuff that he does is really well done.
I get that, but my thing
it doesn't necessarily make it enjoyable.
Right. My thing was I'm used to watching kung fu films. Mm-hmm. So for me, this was just an average kung fu film. This was not something that I'm like, ooh, I'm wowed by.
Yeah.
You understand? So
I had fun with this movie. I think it's a really good time. I know that a lot of people who don't know who Quentin Tarantino is, they see this movie and they're like, oh yeah, I know who Quentin Tarantino is then.
Oh yeah, like from Kill Bill.
Yeah. But
I like the second one better than like the first one though.
Most people do, but it's because it's supposed to be one movie. The first one's supposed to be
the first one gives more.
It's supposed to be exposition for the second one because it's supposed to be one movie.
The first one is Infinity War. The second one is Endgame.
And guess what? I appreciate Endgame more. So. All right, so that's it with Kill Bill 1 and 2. Moving on to Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, actually, no. Death Proof is first.
Death Proof?
Yeah, Death Proof is first.
All right.
Yeah. You ready?
Yeah. I'm going to start right out. Go. Worst Tarantino movie.
There you go.
And he acknowledged this.
Okay.
This movie is part of a 2-part release with Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, it was Grindhouse.
For Grindhouse. Mm-hmm. And the point of Grindhouse was making like an old school cheesy Grindhouse film.
Exactly.
The movie was shot on 30 millimeter. Mm-hmm. 35 or 30?
35. I think it was 35.
Yeah. So 35 millimeter. Butchered to shit. I'll get to that in a second. The movie has Keith Richards playing Stuntman Mike.
Okay.
Stuntman Mike is he basically drives this deadly car. And the movie was the way it's kind of being unfurled is you have these girls who are actors. I believe in just big movies or pornography. I couldn't tell.
Okay.
And then you have Stuntman Mike who follows them
and murders them.
He follows them. He goes and he kind of like seduces them, but they see him as a creep. He brings them into his car, which has a death chamber. The reason it's called Death Proof is because on the hood of his car he has a skull and kind of like lightning arrows, I guess. And that insignia he feels makes him as the driver death proof.
Okay.
No matter how many accidents he could get in the car, he will not die in that car. He'll get injured, but he will not die.
So all the women die.
But in the passenger side, he built it as a death chamber.
Okay.
There are the seats there. There's no seatbelt. In between him and the woman is a plexiglass like wall, and then he just like drives insanely, gets them just bashing back and forth into and side to side. And I expected this movie to be like a slasher. It is not a slasher, not a bit. I thought this was going to be like a really campy kind of horror film, and there are horror aspects to it. There are a lot of tropes from Tarantino. Like, for example, every time you look at the car, you see a girl sleeping in the backseat, their feet out the window.
Right.
Always fucking happens. And their dirty fucking feet. Okay.
The dirty feet.
But going into this movie too is that this movie, it was really hard for me to watch because what they did is the movie was filmed on 35 millimeter, which means it was edited analog. And this is in 2007. This is the movie which is credited for being his first film that's in chronological order because it doesn't jump back at all.
Okay.
It just goes straight through.
Right.
But this movie was really hard to watch because of the way they took the film and they intentionally butchered it and beat the shit out of this film. So you see like a lot of the film grain popping around, all the artifacts get really distracting.
That was the allure of it. They made it like that, so it was like one of those 70s movies.
No, they did. No, I get it, but in the 70s movies, they're not that bad.
Oh, yeah, they're bad.
No, they're bad, but not. Trust me, if you saw this movie, it's really bad. And there's points where like it skips. It skips on like one of the actors talking or like it jumps ahead. There's certain cuts that he does with the film being destroyed. That's really smart. And there's a lot of shots that he does where you see the characters talking, and what Tarantino does, instead of flashing back and forth frequently, he's on the camera and he wheels it around like the characters as they're talking to keep you involved in the conversation, make you feel part of it.
Okay.
And there are scenes where I find that they're just telling stories around the table, and that's like when it's really enjoyable. This movie is so forgettable though. Just watching this movie, I have no desire to watch Robert Rodriguez's take on, or his film that he made. I forgot what it was called.
Planet Terror.
But yeah, the movie. I guess if this is your worst movie as a filmmaker, that's like a good thing to be.
Well, it was just a team up basically. I remember when it came out.
Yeah.
And it was a team up between Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino, which at the time I was a fan of Robert Rodriguez. He did Desperado. He did a whole bunch of movies that I really liked. So I was on board. I was going to watch this, and then I got the reviews, and I was just like, this is not for me.
So this is pretty hard for me to watch. I had to rewind quite a bit if I kept missing things, and the thing is that the movie didn't really have a focus. It wanted to be a cheesy movie, right? But you have Stuntman Mike, who there's two sets of girls, right?
Okay.
So basically, kind of showing if he kills some of them, there's Quentin Tarantino saying, "Oh, I messed up. Let me give more people into this film." And if you guys disagree, please leave comments. We want to interact with you. But when going about this movie, it's just like, if he wanted it to be a campy slasher, which it could have been so much better if he did that.
Right.
He should have done that because the elements were there. If he wanted this to be on a focus on the characters' dialogue and interactions with each other, he should have focused on that. But in the end, not focusing on one too many things. I know who this movie is for. This movie is for dedicated Tarantino fans and fans of that campy 70s grindhouse genre.
I think most of his movies are for dedicated Tarantino fans.
But if you're not a Tarantino fan, for those fans of the 70s grindhouse style movies.
Okay.
But overall, this is a movie I don't see myself revisiting pretty much ever. Even if it's in the Tarantino marathon, I find myself, I'll probably skip it.
I don't count it as a Tarantino movie. I never
counts.
did. All right.
It's written and directed fully by Quentin Tarantino.
I get you, but he also wrote segments for Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Yeah, he also wrote segments for Four Rooms, but those aren't fully written and directed.
That's
by
what I meant.
Tarantino.
Four Rooms.
Yeah,
I always mix those up.
But overall, I don't see myself going back to this, and I do not recommend watching it unless you are a diehard fan and you just need to see it. But I saw all these movies in one weekend, so there's that.
All right.
All right, so that is it for Death Proof. Next up is Inglourious Basterds.
Inglourious Basterds.
Released in 2009.
In 2009. That's all you, buddy.
That's all me?
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
I did watch it.
Okay, so we'll get into it in a second.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get into this one.
Inglourious Basterds is where Tarantino starts going into his alternate reality. Mm-hmm. He already has it from previous movies, like where he basically has the Red Apple cigarette brand.
Right.
Where, he's like, in the new movie, he even says, back in the day, it used to be loose leaf tobacco, but now it is pre-rolled for you. That's like his thing. And now going into this, he has that alternate reality where what if you have where you have members from America put behind enemy lines in Europe called the Bastards, and they were all American Jews, and their goal was to kill Nazis and to kill Hitler. Mm-hmm. And this movie is basically a take on what if Hitler died and how would it happen.
Okay.
So the movie starts off with this scene of Christoph Waltz playing a Nazi lieutenant,
right,
who they refer to as the Jew hunter, because that's his expertise, is finding people. He goes to a house in Paris where he's trying to find out what happened to the missing Jewish people who were there, and you see one of them escape after they shoot out a bunch of them. Right. That person that escaped, fast forward, she now owns a film house in Paris, and she hates Nazis. She meets this guy who's Shoshana. She meets this guy who's a Nazi war hero. She doesn't care because he's a Nazi. She doesn't want any involvement with him. And you have meanwhile you have Brad Pitt with Eli Roth, and I'm trying to remember the other actors in it who played the Bastards.
I couldn't tell you.
But going into that, Brad Pitt's goal is just to get 100 Nazi scalps. Right. That's his thing. Just kill as many Nazis as he can. They developed a name as the Bastards. So they were pretty infamous amongst the German ranks. Without going into too much, obviously, with mentioning how the story goes, this movie was pretty 50-50 for me. Back in the day, I really enjoyed it because it was because looking at this movie, it was just a fun action film. But I also remember being bored to tears when. Hold on, Nigel.
Okay.
I remember being bored to tears when the movie was in dialogue, because the dialogue for this movie was pretty boring to me. It was a lot of it was not in English; it was in French, or if it was in German.
Okay, all right.
Why, were you agreeing?
Yes.
Okay, so give me 1 second. The most enjoyable part of this movie, though, is Brad Pitt.
Yes.
Brad Pitt was incredible, and I wish he had more screen time, because every time I see Brad Pitt on screen, he is so enjoyable.
Yes.
And when he's not on screen, it's very lackluster for me. And going through these movies again, I still love Tarantino, and I still am looking forward to his work, but I started respecting him less as a greatest of all time filmmaker, because I see the flaws in his movies, and they're still enjoyable, and and you can view these movies without being perfect. But this movie, if they cut a lot of that dialogue back and forth, it could have been so much more enjoyable. With that's my perspective. We're halfway through. Go to
Oh my God! Thank you for saying this is clear cut. Easy for this was hard for me to watch. I don't like things about me. I don't like movies that have subtitles. Okay, if you speak a different language, I'm sorry, it's going to be very, very, very tiring for me to watch this movie.
They could have limited it. Yeah,
they could have.
It was said, "Can we switch to English now?"
Yo, it was an hour and 45 minutes. I was in. There was so much French that I was just like, "Yo, I don't understand what this movie's about." And the best thing about it, again, was Brad Pitt. I like seeing Brad Pitt on screen because that's where my trust was in this movie. Brad Pitt's gonna save it. Brad Pitt's gonna save it. And yo, this movie took forever for me to finish. Like I started watching this. Yeah. I started watching this on Saturday. I didn't finish it to this morning. Okay, I couldn't. I tried to watch them all. I had to watch it. I had to watch everything else. I was like, yo, I can't watch this. Like, I can't do this. I had to watch everything else besides this movie. This movie is too long, and they talk. There's way too much dialogue. And again, like I said, there's a difference between early Tarantino and late Tarantino. Early Tarantino, I was happy for his dialogue. I'm like engaged. This Tarantino movie, I wasn't.
In Pulp Fiction, he held your attention in a diner.
Yeah. And I wasn't. They never held my attention with all that French.
The Uma Thurman arc in that movie was my least favorite part of that movie. I don't know if you feel the same way.
No, I'm okay with it.
All right. Well, but when you're at Death Proof, because we're almost out of time for this. Death Proof is when he starts going from old Tarantino to new Tarantino.
Okay.
Death Proof, I would consider that line. because that's where Quentin Tarantino starts to say, hey, all right, I'm done making movies for my dedicated fans. I'm making them more for me.
Okay.
Now I'm making them more for what I want to do in the practice, and because he's starting to become recognized, and he says, I want to do this for the way I want to go through this. Because Pulp Fiction was backed by Danny DeVito's company.
Right.
That's how it got so big, is because Danny DeVito plugged it with a lot of big.
Yeah, I remember
producers.
he did have he had a big company back then.
But
Miramax also produced it as well.
Overall, we're running out of time. I really like this movie. I don't like about a third of it, but I will probably watch it again and enjoy myself with it just because of Brad Pitt scenes alone. And we're out of time. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We have to be hands
it's
off.
All right.
All right.
Y'all do Django because you haven't watched it in a while, right?
Well, I've watched it so many times, but
yeah, I've seen it so many times too.
3, 2, 1, go.
Hi. This is a movie about Jamie Foxx, who plays Django, who is a slave that was freed by Christoph Waltz. Since Django needs something to do, he says, hey, why don't you become a bounty hunter with me and we can walk around and find things? Okay, great. Hey, listen, I'm trying to find my wife. Why don't you help me find my wife? Yeah, cool. I'll teach you how to be a bounty hunter and we'll find your wife. So basically, this is
his first Western, too.
Yeah, this is his first Western. This is basically a story about them trying to find Jamie Foxx's wife, which they find her on a plantation called Candyland, where is owned by Leonardo DiCaprio. And basically what happens is they go in as Mandingo fight promoters, and they try to broker a deal to get Jamie Foxx's wife. Well, that's when everything goes awry and they find out that actually they're not who they say they are, and then a whole bunch of shooting happens.
So this movie, what I find really interesting, I've been doing so much research on Tarantino trying to prep for this episode. For Django, apparently there was only 5 movies in America that have ever that was a Western, in the vein of a Western, that discussed slavery accurately without glossing over it, ever.
Okay.
This is number 6.
Okay.
And
do you know what the other 5 movies were?
No, I got to look into them.
Cool.
I've read them, but I don't know them off the top of my head. But this movie, the reason why I had so much allure to it is, first of all, Jamie Foxx is the lead.
Right.
You have Leonardo DiCaprio, who plays this plantation owner.
Monsieur Candy.
He is so good. There's one scene, I'm sure you know about it, but for those of you who don't, there's a scene where he literally smashes his hand and cuts it open on broken glass. Yeah. He grabs one of the women by the face with his bleeding hand, and she's actually grossed out because this blood is all over her, and they're just going with it.
Yeah.
And there's a couple times in Tarantino movies where they ran with it, and I could kind of tell, but it's just made it so much better because of that. And then you see later on he's actually bandaged up.
Wow.
So, looking at this movie, this is when I really started finding out about who Tarantino was. Around this time, this is when I hopped on. This movie's what, 2012? Yeah.
2012, yep.
Such a good movie.
Yeah.
Incredibly well made.
I really love this movie.
110 uses of the N-bomb in this movie.
But some of them were justified. So, like, I did...
A lot of them are for comedy.
A lot of them were for comedy, especially Don Johnson, who is from Miami Vice.
Yeah.
He's in this movie. A lot from him, which was weird. Jonah Hill is in this movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like, pleasant surprises in this movie that I actually did like watching this. I love Samuel Jackson in this movie. I really do.
Django is such a cool character. It's one of the first movies though where his anti-hero is actually more of a hero.
I like the fact that Django is the real Django is in the movie with him. You didn't know?
No.
So Django is actually, there are movies and the main character was named Django.
Okay.
And it was the Dos Equis guy. It played Django.
Oh,
so that he's in the movie with him.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, if you look when they meet Mr. Candy and he says, "How do you pronounce your name?" He's like, "The D is silent."
Yeah.
That's who he's talking to.
Okay,
he's talking to the original Django.
Wow.
Yeah.
This movie,
I've watched it too many times.
This movie just held my attention every time I watched it.
Yeah.
It's just such a thrilling story. It's so engaging in every aspect of it. And what a lot of people, the lore with this movie, aside from Tarantino's name, is that Tarantino is known for not shying away from action.
Right.
So when people heard that he's doing a Western movie taking place with slavery
and it worked
backdrop,
yeah,
they were really anticipating the fact that he was making a movie like this where he was going to show the full gore of slavery, and obviously he didn't, because there's way more that existed.
Well, yeah, there was way more that existed.
But he showed that it wasn't like, oh, slaves don't mind being slaves. He showed that it was a horrific thing.
Right. I mean, there was some backlash with Spike Lee and a couple other people, but
this is bound to happen.
Spike Lee and Quentin don't like each other anyway, even though Quentin was in one of Spike Lee's movies.
But I love this movie to death. I would definitely recommend watching it. It's just a movie I've watched so many times, and I've
seen it so many. I want to watch it now.
Yeah, same.
So
I want to keep going back to this every time I see it. But we're running out of time.
Sure.
So I just want to say that Jamie Foxx did a fantastic job as the lead. It was originally supposed to be Will Smith.
Yeah,
Will Smith turned it down because he felt that Jamie was a villain.
West. No, he turned it down because of Wild Wild West.
Really?
Yeah, because he was a cowboy in Wild Wild West, and people would remember that and put the two and two together.
Gotcha.
So yeah, he also was a villain, but
that's what I heard. But anyway, great movie, great job from Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx.
And I really enjoyed his performance here.
I like the way you die, boy.
All right, and we are at 5 minutes.
All right.
So next up is Hateful Eight.
That's you.
All right. Hateful Eight is a whodunit movie. In fact, when I was watching this, I'm just like, this is what if we saw Murder Party? Was it Murder Mystery?
Murder Mystery, yeah.
And it was good.
Okay.
Like, I hated Murder Mystery. It was just such bad. But anyway, we're reviewing Hateful Eight. So Hateful Eight, starting off with Samuel Jackson's character, Major Warren.
Yes.
Meets Keith Richards' character, John, I think his name was.
That's not Keith Richards.
It's not Keith Richards. What's his name?
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell, I'm sorry. and Kurt Russell played the villain in Death Proof. I just completely...
You said Keith Richards, and I went with it, too.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's Kurt Russell, man.
I have coffee, and I'm still tired.
Oh, my God.
But Kurt Russell, and you have Kurt Russell, who's transferring a bounty on a girl's head with him. Domergue was her name.
Yes.
And she has a bounty of $10,000 on her head.
Her real name is Jennifer Jason Leigh.
And look at you with your notes.
Yeah.
And Samuel L. Jackson is transferring $8,000 with a bounty of 3 men. And they all go to this cabin called Minnie's Haberdashery, where they meet other characters. It's them conversing and them mingling amongst each other, figuring out something's not right in Minnie's Haberdashery.
Right.
Minnie's not there.
Right.
Neither is her husband or people who are known to work there.
Or you got a Senor Bob and the Colonel.
You have Senor Bob, you have the Colonel, you have...
Christoph Waltz.
It's not Christoph Waltz.
That's not
It's
Christoph
Tim Roth.
That's Tim Roth?
That's Tim Roth.
Oh, my God.
Right?
Mind you, I love Christoph Waltz in Django.
Same.
Anyway, Tim Roth.
Christoph Waltz, he's great in all his movies. In Glorious Bastards, too, he was amazing.
Yeah, but he's just talking French the whole movie.
But, you have Tim Roth, and you have James Madsen, who plays
Michael Madsen.
Michael Madsen. I'm sorry, who plays what's his name? Joe Gage.
Yep, Joe Gage.
So it's the 8 of them in this house, and it's just them. Samuel L. Jackson knows Minnie. He's been to Minnie's Haberdashery a few times a year for quite a few years, so he knows the rules, and he sees something's not right.
Right.
And he's starting to plan his suspicions. He's like, Minnie wouldn't do this, and Minnie wouldn't do that.
Well, Kurt Russell also is suspicious of all these people.
He's suspicious, but he's not suspicious in the vein of Samuel L. Jackson, which is a dichotomy.
Right.
So going into this movie, you're looking at it from a perspective of more Kurt Russell rather than Samuel L. Jackson. But you know something's fishy.
Right.
And the movie is just kind of someone is there who caused a hassle, and they're trying to figure out who it was, and they're trying to bring that person to justice, essentially. Walton Goggins is in this movie. He's a really underestimated actor.
I don't know who that is.
He played the
Ant-Man. Is that the guy that was the villain in Ant-Man and the Wasp?
He played I don't know. He played the sheriff.
Okay, that's the guy from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
See,
I saw him in Justified first,
okay.
And Justified was such a good show because he was such a good villain. And I think he was really cool in this movie too.
Okay,
he helped kind of carry it for me. I saw his movie in 70mm the Roadshow edition, so I rewatched the Netflix extended cut, which I'm pretty sure is the same version without the intermission and overture.
Gotcha.
But this movie was just such a fun time for me because I love the dialogue. Samuel Jackson's monologue in about halfway to the second half of the movie, and you know the one I'm talking about, right? It's so good for me. I just really loved it. I thought it was really smart in how it was done, and there's a lot of details I want to go into that I really can't because I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay.
But overall, this movie was just, when I saw it, I was engaged the entire time, and when things finally start to go awry, it was really enjoyable. And I think the second time I noticed more that was wrong than the first time. and it might have been less enjoyable from the action perspective.
Okay.
But I still love the dialogue that was there. Now Nigel, I know feels different.
Okay,
So
here
let's
we go.
flip over the coin and go right over to
All right,
Nigel.
I'll go real quick because I got a minute. Basically, first time I watched this, I did fall asleep, and we talked about this before because I had screeners of it, and I was like, this thing is slow. Now that I have watched it, this thing is slow.
It's a very slow movie.
It's a very slow movie, and again, you like the dialogue. Me personally, the dialogue didn't rope me in. It wasn't until things started getting good, where they were like whodunit, where people were started disappearing, that I was like, okay, now I'm invested. There's stuff happening.
So halfway through is when you started getting more invested.
Dude, it was like an hour and a half in. I was like, yo, thank you, finally. Like, it was just them in a blizzard and just talking and talking and talking and saying the N-word constantly when they're speaking about Samuel L. Jackson.
But this also takes place after Civil War. So,
I get that. I don't have a problem with that.
The reason you're using it is because the Colonel and Samuel L. Jackson both shared a battlefield at Baton Rouge.
Right.
And there's a lot of distaste between each other. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they hated each other. So
I just want to finish off by saying Samuel L. Jackson's character was supposed to be Django. It was supposed to be called Django the White Trail, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And they took out Django's character because they felt that Jamie Foxx was too established as a hero and he wouldn't fit in this band of misfits.
Also, he's too nice.
Yeah. But overall, I do love this movie. I do recommend watching it. Do you recommend watching it?
I recommend watching it. Just don't do the extended cut. Because I tried to.
I prefer the extended cut. But
I switched over.
I don't recommend the next Netflix version just because the opening and closing credits just kill it for me. And there's only about 10 minutes of extra footage.
I skip the intro.
So do I, but it takes you out of it because you're not watching it seamlessly. All right, next up is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. All right, this is the big review. Okay.
Yeah.
What? This movie is a love letter to Hollywood.
Okay.
To the golden age of Hollywood in 1969. This continues the ritual from Samuel L. Jackson, or not from Quentin Tarantino. Samuel L. Jackson isn't in this movie. From Quentin Tarantino of rewriting history.
Uh-huh.
So the movie stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt.
Yes.
Leonardo DiCaprio plays Rick Dalton, a big TV star from Bounty Law.
Which I like Bounty Law. I wish they had a show.
Yeah,
like
there's actually I'll explain in a second.
Okay.
And then with Leonardo DiCaprio is Brad Pitt playing Cliff Burton, his stunt double.
Yes.
Who now is a chauffeur essentially after Leonardo DiCaprio got caught drunk driving.
Yep.
Yeah. It's this movie. It's arguably his slowest movie. I don't know if you consider it slower than Hateful Eight.
Oh man, my family thinks this is slower than Hateful Eight.
There's a lot of stuff happening in this movie, but not a lot of stuff happening, if you know what I'm saying.
Thank you.
There's things happening in this movie without it progressing the plot. This movie involves a Manson family. It involves and when we say no spoilers, we're saying anything that wasn't in the trailers we will talk about.
Trailer. I didn't know that it was about the Manson family.
Neither did I.
I heard about this movie, and I heard that he was making a movie about the Manson family.
Yeah.
I didn't know that this was the movie that he made.
And it is not about the Manson family.
It's not, but it was supposed to have elements of it.
Watching this movie, I completely forgot that Charles Manson was supposed to be in it, and he was only in it for a minute or two.
Yeah.
But the way
I didn't know he wasn't in it at all.
But this movie also helped solidify me knowing that Quentin Tarantino and Hollywood hate hippies. They loathe them. They hate they just bash him. They're like, hippies weren't all about peace. Hippies were all about just being like shitty, muddy people, and it's just
America was more conservative back then, so they didn't like hippies.
Yeah,
at all.
But I'm saying for today too, because they also shit on hippies in the new Zombieland trailer. Zombieland 2 is coming out October 11th, I think.
Okay.
We didn't do geek news today, so there's your geek news.
There you go.
But just this movie you need to be a fan of his dialogue and the performances, because this movie gets pretty meta. And I will say this is some of the best acting I've ever seen from Leonardo DiCaprio.
Ooh, you the little girl?
What?
This is the best acting I've seen.
No, it is some of the best acting I've seen.
Okay.
Because Leonardo DiCaprio, keep in mind, he's not just acting as Rick Dalton.
Right.
He's acting as Rick Dalton, acting as a character, and he's having to switch back and forth constantly.
Right.
And he's having to stay in character for the entire time, and you just see that he's constantly going and bouncing around like these two different places, and it was well done. One thing I got to say that I didn't like about this movie is I did not like there were some cuts that were pretty sudden. Like there's a scene. This is the first time that I noticed. I'll show you two instances.
Okay.
First instance is you see Leonardo DiCaprio, Rick Dalton. He's in the trailer. He's getting briefed on his character. You see he's cleaning his face off with the ice. Yeah. And then they cut to him, and you just see they cut to him. Well, still on the shot, and his hair is just gone.
I saw that part. I caught
another
that.
one. Timothy Oliphant, who's great in this movie too. I love
Yeah.
him in Justified. There's a scene where you're just looking at him, and then he just suddenly appears with his hat on, and then he takes it off.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I don't know if that's sloppy editing or intentional.
I think it was
consider-
intentional.
It might be intentional, but from my perspective, it's sloppy.
Right. I think it was usually nowadays when it looks sloppy.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's intentional. So let me say what I liked about it first before
Yeah.
I do anything else.
Overall, I really like this movie.
Right.
And my friends who are big Tarantino fans also really like this movie.
All right.
But I know you're not a Tarantino fan.
I'm not a Tarantino fan.
He likes some movies, but he's not a Tarantino.
Right. I would have to say this one just isn't for me. However, there are things and elements that I do like. I do like Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt's performances in this movie. I love seeing Leonardo DiCaprio go through all the stuff. It kind of resonated with me, whereas being an actor and like being on set and like forgetting your lines, like I've gone through that.
It's got to be embarrassing as hell.
It's embarrassing. It's like you do things over and over and over again, and everybody's pissed off at you. So it's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
Also, like, you know, I like that character. Same thing with the Bruce Lee scene. I liked watching the Bruce Lee scene, even though there's a little backlash with it. I did like watching or thinking about the fact that you know, Rick Dalton's stunt double can actually beat Bruce Lee. Like nobody could beat Bruce Lee back then.
All right, so this we had a conversation about this behind the scenes. We didn't want to get too into it because we wanted to save it for on here. There's a lot of controversy, as you may know, about Bruce Lee's portrayal in this movie. His daughter came out on record saying that she felt that Quentin Tarantino making her father a caricature was really inappropriate and really not good. I see both perspectives of this, right?
Okay.
And I think when we're going about that, I see the perspective of Tarantino's making a fictitious world.
Gotcha.
He's in the world of trying to entertain people rather than making people realistic. He especially with, for example, Red Apple cigarettes, trying to kill Hitler, stuff like that. He does that a lot in his movies. His movies are intertwined quite a bit.
Okay.
The way from what I think he did, is I think he just did whatever he could because this is on the set of the TV show Green Hornet.
Right.
He tried to do what he could to get Cliff Burton, who's Rick Dalton's stunt double,
and I get what he was trying to do,
to get into a fight with Bruce Lee, and he wanted Bruce Lee to fight in the movie.
He wanted to show that he's a badass and that he.
I think they also just wanted the fight to exist.
Right. So. I get that,
but on the other side, on this side too, because I want to finish this perspective. Is you have what's his name, Bruce Lee. I heard that he's also I don't know him. I'm just saying based on accounts that I heard. I heard both that he's a very nice and genuine person, and I also heard that he was hot-headed.
Right.
I heard one instance, and it could be gossip. I wasn't there. But there was interviews with people who were there.
Okay.
Where he was challenged to a fight. Because he was on stage. He was saying, "I could fight anyone. I could take on anyone, whoever." It's like I can beat all of you.
Right.
Someone challenged him to a fight, and he wanted it to be kind of a spar. But then Bruce Lee had the doors locked to the bar, and it was clear he went more for a street fight than to an actual like spar.
Okay.
Going for constant groin shots and stuff like that. So I don't know the kind of person that Quentin Tarantino heard Bruce Lee was. I don't know how he was on set.
Gotcha.
But I know outside of the studio he seemed to be a decent person because people were pleading because of him to get Asian American actors on screen.
Just like they went and spoke to Sharon Tate's family, they should have spoke to. Anytime you deal with somebody who is dead, you have to speak to the family of the people that like you're portraying on screen. That's why I had an issue.
His son died too. So.
Right. That's why I had an issue with them doing it because like if you didn't speak to the family of the people, like you're portraying somebody who's dead. So it's like you don't know who this affects. You got to understand that Bruce Lee is the first Asian American like that wasn't like a caricature. Like it wasn't like him like because back in the day in the 60s
it wasn't like a racist kind
it wasn't racist. It was
basically more trying to portray him as a badass. No,
but what I'm saying is there were
thanks for tuning in.
There were racist characters like of Asian people back then, and he was the first one that wasn't. So for a lot of Asian Americans, this is their Superman. Like this is their guy. Where like this is the first real Asian person, and so when they see him being a character of himself, they're like, Bruce would never do that. Yeah. So that's why I was like that. But the other things like I didn't like, and this is where my didn't likes. I didn't like. I felt like they underutilized Margot Robbie, and I felt like it never really connected for me. The stories between
I don't get how they use her, like because I know they used her because they wanted you to think, hey, this is a Manson family, and they're after Sharon Tate.
And again, I needed to know that this was quote unquote something to do with Manson. I didn't know that. Number one,
neither did I until I saw Manson and I heard her name is Sharon Tate.
I don't know that. I don't know anything about Manson.
Know anything about the Manson
I don't
family?
know.
Okay.
That's why, like, when I watched this with my mother and my sister. My mother fell asleep 30 minutes in. Okay, she was knocked out. The lady next to her was asleep. My mother woke up an hour and 45 minutes in. She said she's going to the bathroom. Never came back.
See, with my theater, everyone was engaged.
My sister, who was a big Manson fan, she was pissed because she wanted it to follow the original story.
Well, try not to spoil.
I'm not.
Yeah.
But she wanted it to follow the original story, which I don't know until she told me afterwards what was going on. So I'm in a predicament whereas like, listen, okay, if it's for art, I like it for art. Like I like the hippie compound. I like the fact that they went to the hippie compound.
It was visually gorgeous,
and they did all that stuff. The feet were disgusting.
Yeah, there's so many feet shots.
There's
in this
so
movie.
many dirty feet and hairy underarms.
Yeah, well, hairy underarms I get because
I get it.
But the feet, like, they're pressed up against the windshield. And the shot, like, this is the shot. The feet are just like a third.
And Margot Robbie's feet at the
Talk about
movie.
the rule of thirds.
Oh my god! But like, those are the things that like really, like, when I watched this, I watched this movie and I was like, I don't know what the hell I just watched. And I had a conversation with a whole bunch of guys in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's almost a 3-hour movie. We're going to the bathroom afterwards. So like, there was like a train from my movie all the way to the bathroom. Yeah. And I said, guys, keep it real with me. How did you feel about the movie? And a lot of them said, eh. So that's when I went in and said, this movie is garbage. But at the end of the day, it's not really garbage. And as I thought about it, it has elements that are really, really good. And they did some things really, really well. But I won't say that it was bad. I just say just wasn't for me.
This movie I had to see it a second time. First of all, mainly because the first time the people next to me wouldn't shut the fuck up. They're like, there's this, the point in the beginning of the movie, like, don't talk. Is like, hear that? Shut up, all you talkers. The guy next to me said that. His friend group was talking the entire time, including him, and I just couldn't focus. So I saw it again a second time. I view Tarantino movies kind of like a progressive rock record.
Okay.
Where you can listen to it the first time, you can enjoy it, but when you go back a second time, you really start to understand it and look further into it. I thought this movie was really entertaining. I enjoyed seeing it a second time. I actually looked forward to seeing it a second time.
Right.
Because, first of all, the action scene in it. This has the least amount of action next to Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown's the least. Yeah. This is second least.
But at least Jackie Brown held my attention through the whole movie.
This movie did for me, too.
This movie didn't hold my attention. Like, I would have went to sleep just like my mother had it not been my sister saying, oh, you're going to sleep too?
Yeah, but I think that. But looking at this movie, I really just enjoyed it overall, despite it having the second least amount of action. Like I said, I like his dialogue, and I think that this movie was clearly for Tarantino. He wanted to be dialogue. Hatefully, it was because he said, "Okay, now I know how to make a Western movie. Now I want to use all the experience that I learned to make a better one." Where this is more along the lines of like, I just want to make this for me in an era that he barely remembers. He was like 6 years old.
I have one gripe though.
What?
I have one gripe. When there were scenes of them at the Playboy Mansion.
Yeah.
I wish I could have seen Bill Cosby. I wish, like, tell me somebody black would be in the movie. Yeah. Whether it be O.J. Simpson, Jim Brown, Sidney Poitier, like.
That's true.
I was hoping just show me one guy.
And one thing, before we get into the final segment, one thing I just wanted to mention, I forgot to mention about Hateful Eight, is the scene. Do you remember the scene where Kurt Russell broke the guitar? Yes. Do you know what's so significant about that scene?
No.
That guitar is an artifact from the Civil War Museum.
Oh, wow.
And when he broke it, it was worth $100,000, I think.
That's funny.
And you see Domergue, the actress, breaks characters like, whoa, 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 whoa. And that's when she did that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that she broke character for that. Because she actually was freaking out because he broke an expensive piece of like art.
He was in the moment, man.
He was, and it was a phenomenal scene. That's why Quentin Tarantino kept it. But I thought that was really brilliant. But anyway, those were all our reviews. I recommend watching the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I really enjoyed it.
I didn't get into it till like toward the end.
But keep in mind, it's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's a fairy tale.
Yeah, it's definitely a fairy tale.
So it's not real, but you could find yourself enjoying it. You have Steve McQueen in it. You have like not actually Steve McQueen, but like the actor.
I did. Like I said, I did like the shots with Leonardo DiCaprio. I did.
All right, so let's go into the ranking.
All right,
we're gonna rank all these Tarantino movies. So for me, I'm gonna start actually from the bottom up.
Okay.
Number 9, Grindhouse, Death Proof.
Okay.
Number 8, Inglourious Bastards.
Okay.
Number 7, Jackie Brown. And I just want to keep in mind, Death Proof was the only one I really didn't like. After that, it's ones I enjoy. You know?
Okay.
All right, so number 8, Inglourious Bastards. Number 7, Jackie Brown. I love that movie, and it's number 7, so keep that in mind. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Number 6, Kill Bill 1 and 2. I count it as one movie, so you guys don't get mad at me.
Okay.
Number 5, Reservoir Dogs.
Okay.
Number 4, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
Number 3, Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
Number 2, Django Unchained.
Okay.
Number 1, The Hateful Eight.
You ready for mine? I can do this easy.
All right, go for it.
Death Proof, because I've never seen it.
Hey, John, thanks for tuning in.
Death Proof is number 1. Number 2, not number 1, I'm sorry. Number 10 is Death Proof. Number 9 is Inglourious Bastards. Number 8 is Kill Bill. Number 7 would be Hateful Eight for me. Number where am I at? 7? 6 would be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Number 5 would be Jackie Brown. Number 4 would be Reservoir Dogs. Number 3 would be, am I missing one? Did I miss one?
I don't know.
I think I am.
Those look like all the movies.
I think so.
Yeah.
Basically, 1 and 2 is Django and Pulp Fiction.
You started from 10. I think that's your issue.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's why.
All right.
That's my fault.
Thank you all for tuning into this. I hope
Thank you guys for my funny math. Yeah.
Let's finish this off quickly.
Sure.
What are you watching?
I watched the final season of Orange is the New Black.
You can review it next episode. So brief thoughts.
Brief thoughts about this. I like this season. Basically, what happens is it's about the immigration crisis is happening in our country right now, and the detainees are all in Litchfield. So you get to see a lot of send-offs and a lot of stuff because this is the last season, and you got to see a lot of familiar faces that you haven't seen in a long time.
All right, and I saw, what was it called? I saw The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. For the first time, and I really enjoyed it.
The Western.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Because I wanted to watch.
You didn't grow up with my grandfather.
Well, it came out in 2007, I think. No, the new one.
Oh, the new one.
I saw the new one. Yeah, I didn't watch the original yet. But
you see that. Yeah, It's not the. Yeah.
My name is Steve. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Drakentas _DRAKONTAS_. We started a new show on Area 22 Productions called the Deer Apparition Podcast.
Okay.
Starting off focusing on the band The Deer Hunter, DEAR, with interviews with the band members, and then moving out to other bands in the similar field and getting interviews with the band members. Episode 0 is out now. You can find it on the page, or you can find it on the Facebook page, Deer Apparition Podcast.
And you got to talk about the movie, too.
Yeah, but this is DEAR.
It doesn't matter.
Nigel, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at @NigelFullerton_ and Twitter at Nigel Fullerton. I have a show August 24th. Yes, August 24th at Governor's Comedy Club. You can buy tickets at www.govs.com. It's in the Little Room at Governor's. It's a small venue, so please buy your tickets in advance. Do not wait for the door because you might get shut down. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us money on Patreon. Do whatever you can. Make sure you subscribe this link if you found this on my page or Steve's page. Thank you guys for watching. God bless you and good night.
Good night.